Let's start with a situation most experimentation teams know too well. You run an experiment, variation B wins. You share the results. And the first question you get isn't, great, cool, should we ship it? It's, why doesn't this match our BI dashboard? And honestly, at this point, the experiment is basically paused. Because now the conversation isn't about business impact anymore. It's about whether the data can be trusted at all. Experiments stall, decisions pause, and optimization quietly slows down. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Experimentation rarely fails because of bad ideas. It fails because teams don't trust the numbers enough to act. Different tools, different logic, different definitions. Now, before we talk about tools, try a quick test. Ask your data team these 3 questions. Where is your revenue actually defined? When is a user truly considered exposed to an experiment? And how long after exposure do we measure success? If those answers differ across systems, you don't just have messy data, you have decision risk. Now here's why this keeps happening in most setups. The experiment runs in one system, the analysis runs somewhere else, and the business metrics live in the warehouse. To make that work, data gets copied around, metrics get rebuilt, exposure logic changes, and time windows change. Each of those differences is small on its own, but together they're enough to spark a debate every single time. So instead of talking about what we learned, teams end up talking about how the numbers were calculated. And this stuff adds up fast. A recent report from Salesforce found that data teams spend 57% of their time just integrating and preparing data before they can even analyze it. Nearly 3 days a week lost, not to learning, but to arguing about numbers. Now imagine this at scale. You're not running 1 or 2 experiments. You're running dozens, sometimes hundreds a year. A company like L'Oreal runs over 200 experiments a year with Optimizely. Even if a handful of those results get questioned, confidence in the whole program starts to drop. And once leadership stops trusting numbers, experimentation quietly becomes optional. This is usually where teams blame process or communication or say they need a better alignment. But the root problem isn't process or people, it's architecture. That is a shift behind warehouse native experimentation. Experiments run directly on your data warehouse, the same unified foundation that connects data across channels, products, and customer touchpoints. So instead of analyzing experiments in a silo, you're measuring impact against the full cross-channel reality of your business. No ingestion, no copied data sets, no rebuilt metrics, just queries against the exact same governed data your business already relies on. So if your source of truth lives in Snowflake, BigQuery, Redshift, or Databricks, that's exactly what the experiment runs on. In mature experimentation programs, metrics aren't defined inside tools. They're defined once in the warehouse and reused everywhere. Let's put that into context. Say your revenue metric excludes refunds, handles currency conversion, and applies region-specific rules. With warehouse native analytics, that exact logic is what the experiment uses. There's no rebuilding it inside the tool. And this isn't limited to simple metrics. You can experiment on multi-step funnels, weighted metrics, long-term outcomes, or combinations like activated users who retained after 30 days. If it can be defined in an SQL, it can be an experiment metric. That's when experimentation moves from clicks and vanity metrics to real business impact. Warehouse native analytics also handles exposure properly. Users are only included once they've actually seen a variance. Now that sounds obvious, but a lot of tools count users before exposure, which quietly skews results. Outcomes are measured over real business windows, not random session limits. So if success is revenue over 14 days or retention after 30 days, that's exactly what gets measured. Because everything runs on the warehouse, results are reproducible. Same query, same data, same answer every time. That's what makes experimentation auditable, finance aligned, and enterprise ready. This is where analytics computed experimentation differs. When metrics are recomputed inside a tool, they follow tool logic, not business logic. At this point, 2 fundamentally different approaches emerge. Some platforms execute experimentation inside an analytics layer where data is ingested and recomputed using the tool's own identity rules and metric logic. Others execute experimentation directly on the warehouse, querying governed business data. Both can look similar on the surface, but operationally they can lead to very different outcomes. Platforms like Amplitude are strong at behavioral analytics and product insights, but when experimentation is computed inside an analytics layer rather than the warehouse, reconciliation can still become a blocker to decision-making. Optimizely takes a second path. We don't recompute your metrics, we query the truth you already trust. Here are just a few ways Optimizely differs by design. Experiments run directly on your warehouse, data, and definitions. This means your experiments aren't just connected to your warehouse, they operate within it. Every metric, every segment, every user definition is pulled directly from your single source of truth, ensuring consistency across your business. No duplicated pipelines or shadow metrics. Unlike systems that require you to copy data or redefine metrics in a separate analytics layer, Optimizely eliminates the shadow IT of data. This prevents the subtle discrepancies that lead to endless debates and wasted engineering time trying to reconcile numbers. Experimentation and analytics are built specifically for this workflow. Our platform is purpose-built for rigorous experimentation directly on your warehouse. This isn't an analytics tool with experimentation bolted on. It's a unified system where your experiments and analytics speak the same language as your business data. Finally, results align with the same source of truth that the business already trusts. This fundamental difference means marketing, product, finance, and data teams all see the exact same numbers from the same source with the same logic. No more my numbers versus your numbers, just shared confidence and faster action. Once teams start to see this in action, a few things stop happening almost immediately. No more exporting results into BI to double check. No more engineers pulled into reconciliation. No more long debates before rollouts. Because this works with your existing warehouse models, teams don't need months of pipeline work. They're operational in hours or days, and results are trusted the first time they're shared. At this stage, the question isn't, do we believe in experimentation? It's, do we trust the system producing the results? Warehouse-native experimentation platforms like Optimizers remove that doubt, so teams stop arguing about numbers and start acting on what they've learned. Because if the results are still debated, experimentation isn't driving growth, it's just theatre. And the moment that teams trust the data, experimentation finally starts moving the business forwards. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out the description below for more information on this topic.